6.5 million Pennsylvanians did, there were no such safeguards. You cannot have an election and treat different voters differently within the same state. That is a violation of the Equal Protections Clause of the U.S. Constitution, and it's a very, very serious offense. And absolutely, we believe that we're going to prevail on that suit. Otherwise, we wouldn't have filed it.
We need to talk about this lawsuit against Pennsylvania, the Secretary of State, Kathy Boockvar, a Democrat, and the Board of Elections. Now, to be fair, the votes were counted in Allegheny, Center, Chester, Delaware, Philadelphia, Montgomery, and Northampton counties. These are counties that voted for Biden via mail-in votes. Now, this is the issue, obviously, that the Republicans have a problem with, because a lot of these mail-in votes, in fact, some 90% of them did, in fact, go to Biden. GOP lawmakers, in fact, ruled before the election that these ballots could be counted for 3 days after the election, as long as they were postmarked November 3rd. So my question then is, why not file this lawsuit before the election instead of after? And does the GOP majority here, who believes that somehow a fraud has been committed and that this presidential election was stolen by the Democrats, do they not see the differential here between the number of votes that were counted postmarked by November 3rd, they had until Friday, 3 days to count those, the majority of those going to Biden? Why can they not see that there is obviously a difference in those votes going to Biden because those voters were Democrats?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. There's a lot of issues going on in Pennsylvania, and it is known, pretty well established now, that the majority of the mail-in votes would have been for Joe Biden. The majority of the people who voted on Election Day, the vast majority, would have been for President Trump. The fact is that we were drawing attention to this prior to Election Day. That's why the Supreme Court was already involved. And I think you misstated something there a little bit. It is Pennsylvania state law that ballots must be received by Election Day, not postmarked.
November 3rd.
By election day, right? So by extending the deadline for votes to come in, that is contrary to what the state legislature had done. They effectively moved election day by 3 days. And remember, this is what Democrats accused President Trump of wanting to do months ago. They said, "Oh, he's gonna move election day." Well, Democrats actually did it. And it goes beyond this. We have sworn affidavits under the penalty of perjury from a postal worker in Erie who says that he and others were commanded to backdate ballots to make them acceptable to come in, even though they did arrive after Election Day and after the period. Backdating ballots, that's illegal. We have an affidavit from Michigan, from an election worker saying the same thing.
Right.
Right.
The election day
really serious allegations.
The election day has been.
Yes.
Listen, but you have to. Okay,
but the legislature set the date.
The election day was November 3rd.
Yes, it was.
And if ballots came in after November 3rd, as long as that ballot.
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
Hold on a second. No, you're not listening to what I'm saying. If that ballot was mailed before Election Day, in other words, if you put that ballot in the mail on November 2nd, it's not going to get to Pennsylvania or any of these counties until November 4th, possibly November 5th. If it's postmarked November 3rd, that's not moving Election Day. That's giving it a few days to get to the ballot counters.
You didn't listen to what I said. State law in Pennsylvania says that ballots must be received by Election Day.
All right.
Not postmarked by Election Day, received. The Secretary of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the State Supreme Court of Pennsylvania should not change the law as passed by the people's elected representatives in Harrisburg, in the state legislature. Ballots must be received by Election Day.
We have to get back to our Senate Judiciary Committee.
Confusing the
Tim
law.
Murraugh, thank you. I'm not confusing the law. I do know that the votes were allowed to come in after, as long as they were postmarked. Thank you very much,
Only
Senate Judiciary Committee
decision by the state secretary.
Right, but it was a vote that was passed in court. Tim Murraugh, thank you very much. We're going to go back to the